Hey, welcome. So you postponed your OAuth2 migration to the very, very bitter end, like the rest of us. But hopefully I'm getting out a little early to help you out. And I just posted yesterday on the QBO API gem that I will not be merging in any kind of PR that has to do with, we're calling it batteries included, library addition around OAuth2 renewal. And in the end, as I wrote, really, it's just too complex for my taste to kind of manage that. And there's going to be a lot of inside baseball for each integration on the way you persist your tokens. So, and then another reason too is like this has to be very rock solid for you and for all of our projects. We have a 1 hour renewal window, not the 5 month renewal window that was an OAuth1. So this has got to work well, and you got to know what's going on. You don't want this kind of thing baked into a gem. But as I mentioned in my post too, I think what Nate Tippy is working on, the middleware approach, does have a lot of promise, and it makes it really super easy and should be fine. But I didn't have the time to really dig deep and like the amount of code again. So anyway, it's all written down there. So this video is going to show you an approach that is this is really a pretty easy problem. This renewal problem is pretty easily solved in Ruby, and I have a pretty good approach that I'll be having in this video. And this is going to be like 95% of your work too. Like if you get started now, this is late October, and you just start refactoring into this pattern, this is more than 95%. This is like 97, 98%. And then I'll have step 2, which is actually how to do the renewal. And I think you'll see like this is really the best way to go. So let me jump in here now to show you this pattern. And this has nothing to do with OAuth2. Like you're not going to have to go to the developer site, turn on your keys, bring in your new client ID key and all this stuff. This is just going to work for OAuth1. But it puts it in this code pattern that's going to make it really simple to just kind of switch over to OAuth2 and get this renewal done. So let's, without further ado, let me jump into. Okay, so starting with your gem file, make sure that you do a bundle update on QBO API. It should be on 1.8.5. You will have, if you haven't yet, if that version, you got to put in simple OAuth by itself. It doesn't get added automatically. I already have rack OAuth2. You'll see this in step 2. This is the library that I like, and it can be done other ways, but this is the way I'm going to be doing it. But I'm not going to be getting to it until like lesson 2 or step 2 of your migration. So, but I have it in now because I've already tested stuff and all that. But again, it's not a requirement, but you might as well throw it in now. Okay, let's talk about too, in this particular project, where do I store stuff? Like that's another problem that I didn't want to dig into, because the way you are persisting things in your project are going to be different than mine. This particular app is a multi-tenant app. It has accounts. It has then for each account is a QBO account. And there I store the tokens. So here is just the structure of that table. I'm using the adder encrypted gem to encrypt the values. This particular app is not on the App Store. It doesn't need to have this. I think it's good practice to get that stuff encrypted in the database. You're going to add, so you're going to want to, actually you don't need to do this at this step, but I wanted to mention this is how I'm persisting things in this app. You're going to have to structure your code around how you do things, but you'll see, and I'm going to post code in the show notes, and you'll be able to adapt this code to what you need. So I have 2 you can put these wherever, but in the app models directory in a Rails project, I have a simple QBO module, and in there I have a class method called int, and there I simply am starting up a new instance of QBO API, and there. This is going to be different for everybody. Here I just throw in the QBO account. You should have something like this. You should have a single point on where you derive or where you create the instance of QBO API. You shouldn't be doing it like just ad hoc. It should be at those separate places. Do it in one spot. So have an int or whatever you want to call it in your project method. All right, so the next thing, don't worry about this other methods right now, because in this step, you just want to refactor your code. Now, I also have a base class. Now here, don't ask me why it's in base. I was using base. I sometimes use that naming convention. This might be better as like QBO request, but I'm not going to change mine, but you might want to change yours. Now here is the heart of the matter, what you need to do in refactoring your project. And it's really this method here. It's all of these methods as well, like in QBO module, are class methods. And I did that because I didn't think having a traditional class inheritance method design was going to be good here. Like I wanted to actually be verbose and pass lots of, because when you do go this method of having all class methods, you're going to pass around a lot of arguments. But I felt like it was the right thing to do, to actually keep down complexity, not kind of have instance variables buried in weird spots. I just chose to do it this way, and but you can certainly do it the traditional method of having instance methods. So, right, okay, so here we have this thing I call request handler, and it always passes in the QBO account ID that's required. The other ones are not required, and I'll explain them. You're going to be passing in a block here, all right? But you're always going to start it off this way. And the reason you need to do that, or this is the best approach, is because when you do get, I'm going to go down to here already, we're going to talk about OAuth2. So when you get a unauthorized, which is a 401, you're going to want to do this OAuth2 retry. Now, remember, we're not doing it at this step. You may want to have a little stubbed in thingy here, but I need to explain some of the stuff and why. In this renew code, which I'm going to get to in another lesson, you are going to actually update the QBO account, and you're going to do a retry. All right. Now, when it comes back to retry, you want to make sure you're getting that new token. And by doing this, a find, and not maybe reloading already an instance of the model, like just if it was QBO account, you're here redoing it again. And you're remaking the instance from QBO API. Okay. So so the retry will be fresh. So when you change the token here, then the retry comes back here. This API is going to be nice, clean, and work. Okay, let's just give an example. Now in here, you have, so you're rescuing from here. Then in general, you're just rescuing from QBO API error here. You can see I have here a fixed duplicate customer. And I will post this code too, just so you can see, if you want to do something complex in the error handling, if there's a duplicate name, I'm updating locally the database with the QBO API or QBO ID value. All right. But anyway, you don't have to be super concerned. what you want to do is put all of your requests in this kind of pattern. All right. Then it's going to make the renewal very easy. And I'll post this code. I have here too this thing called an entity handler. This is where I'm making a new estimate or I'm making a new customer. And it sort of has this pattern where you're always kind of checking to do an update or a create. And I have that in quite a few spots. So you can see here I'm using the request handler up above. We're throwing in the block of code. I'm returning the result or the response. Res I use for response. Excuse me. And this is going to get run up here and then run through this exception apparatus here. Now, why some of the other arguments? Well, you should probably have, I also have in my projects, a QBO errors table. All right. You should have one too. But you don't have to. You can just log these or whatever. And in this QBO errors table, I always like to look at the payload JSON. So that's what this is, the payload. Excuse me. And because I like to record the payload, that's all. In some cases, the payload, like in this one here, is needed. Where am I at here? Yeah, the payload has to be passed in. And so it has a use for sending the request too, but mostly I use it for recording errors. The record false here too, it's just another one I use because when I use in the entity handler, sometimes I'm using the record. In this case, the record means my local estimate, my local customer. All right. So it's just like, again, it's just like this, I mentioned this inside baseball that you're going to want to develop your own request handler. And I just don't think we can do this kind of thing in the gem greatly. Like we can't just do a retry in the gem, which is what we do in the middleware. And I just don't think it's going to work well. Like you do need to set up this apparatus and it's going to be customized to what you need. So that's what the record is for, but it's false. It's not required. So here I have, so I'm going to deploy this soon. And as you see, I'm stubbed out here because none of my production keys are going to have an access token in the QBO account. All right. So in my QBO accounts, I do a, right now for OAuth1, it's just a token and secret. Now, if a QBO account did have an access token, then this is going to kick in, but that's not the case in production. So what happens is I just record this as in OAuth1 as an authentication error. All right, and okay. So where is this? Like, let me just show you. Like, here's some of my import code. So I showed the entity handler here does use the request handler, passes in the block. We're passing in the API instance that we make up here. And then you put that within, you make that accessible within the block. All right. And here it is in practice here. It can get a little bit verbose. You can see here, look how big this wrapper is. So I may want to make that smaller by just putting the method inside of here. That's a little too much, but this is what I have right now. See, I'm just wrapping this, what I want to do, here's the request as the block, passing in as a block. That's what I mean. My Ruby can handle retries well because of blocks. And here's another example here of the request handler. And let me mention that I'm not strict. So like I have like 99% now of my requests running in blocks. But in this particular case, this fixed duplicate customer, I do have a straight call right here using the QBO API where I'm not wrapping it in a block. I'm going to have pretty good confidence that this instance of the QBO API gem is going to be a good one and not fail, because it's already being run through the process up here. Like by the time it gets to here, it's already run a request and has renewed itself most likely. So it's going to be very edge case that it comes to here and we lost the token. Even if we do, most of my stuff is in background jobs. So it's just going to get retried. All right. So you don't have to be massively strict here if you can live with knowing that, if you have a background job and you know that other parts of your code are going to be renewing that request from that particular customer, by the time it gets back to the background job, they will have a good token. All right, I'm going to post this code. This is the first step, is getting all of your requests in a similar request handling pattern as you're going to see right here if you want to copy from here, but I have this in the show notes. And then stay tuned for like maybe a lesson 3, a lesson 2, a lesson 3. I'll probably get into this particular app I'm doing does not have authentication, like log in into it. Another project I do has. I'll probably go over that. So that was not as big a deal. I wanted to release this as early as I can to help you guys to while you have time to start refactoring your code into this request handler pattern. Okay, thanks for watching.